Now, what does that mean? And we're going to talk about that. This is going to be a big portion of the video. But I want to let you guys know that along the way, I may give out some tidbits. Things that come to me later on that I figure I just may want to throw your way. It's not enough to focus a whole video on, but still definitely very important information. Like, even though we're talking about manipulating the why, and I'll explain what that means, this really deals with communication, our interactions with the inmate population. And this is going to make me want to touch on something that we discussed in videos 2 and 1, and also just to reinforce and make sure we're mindful of, where we're going in regards to when we're communicating with an inmate, how we have to have that level of control. But before we do that, I've got 15 questions here. Now, these 15 questions are going to pretty much be a backbone throughout these videos that we cover. And these are questions to provide us with more insight on ourselves. And that's key, guys. Remember, insight and situational awareness will give us the defense needed to protect us during that process. And remember, guys, the process is invisible. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. So guys, I want you to think about these 15 questions. Ask yourself these questions every day. Ask yourself these questions every time you have an interaction. Whatever it is, these questions are meant to give you a better insight into self. First question, am I overly friendly or familiar? Do I think of inmates at home? Do I appear gullible? Do inmates consider me too trusting? Am I excessively sympathetic? Is my demeanor timid? And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Is my enforcement of rules consistent? Do I handle compliments in a non-professional or embarrassing manner? Do I share personal problems with inmates? Have I been known to forget to check the validity of an inmate's information and/or story? Do I sometimes let issues slide that should be addressed immediately? Now, this next question here is definitely what we're covering today. That's the focus of manipulating the why. Do I have difficulty with command, control, and saying no? Do I circumvent minor rules? Can I be made to feel obligated? Am I easily distracted? Guys, in today's corrections, we interact with the inmates a lot more than we ever did before. So we need to make sure that we're in control with those communications that we have, however forced, spontaneous, or prepared. If we are not prepared or take a second to prepare ourselves during those spontaneous conversations, we don't know where that inmate could be taking us. We don't know that. So having said that, we have to be on point. We have to be prepared of what this inmate is trying to do. What is their motivation? Why are we having this dialogue? What's motivating this inmate to talk to me at this moment? And the reason why sometimes that could be tough is, remember, guys, I can teach us manipulation. I can teach us how to look for it, to identify that process, but you still have these policies and procedures that say if A happens, B must happen, which means that gives a chance for an inmate to find a weakness in a policy, which could have been, based on good intent, but they know that if they say this, we have to do this. So we have to be able to control that reaction to some extent. So we're not 100% predictable, which means that we have to exhaust all levels of questions until we can understand what that motivation is for that inmate to do what it is that they want to do. And guys, when inmates that choose to manipulate or inmates that lie, when they go to tell a story, they usually do it in generalities as opposed to specifics. So we can't run on generalities. We have to exhaust it down and tire them out until they give us specifics. That's the key. And again, being in control of that dialogue means that we're driving that vehicle. And if any time I feel that this person is trying to take the wheel and take me to somewhere I don't want to go, I'm going to step back, rethink my plan, come back again. You do not get a hold of the vehicle that I'm driving. I am in control of all dialogue. If I ask you a question, you give me an answer. You don't ask me another question. That's how this dialogue works. That's how our communication works. If at any time we're taken off track, we have a problem because we're not going to know where we're going. And the destination, I will guarantee you, is not where you want to be. So the most important thing I can tell you right now is try to control that communication. And that's going to be part of what we're talking about now, which is called manipulating the why. What does that mean? I mean, what am I saying when I'm saying manipulating the why? This why is our justification for why we do what we do. It's our justification for the directives that we give the inmate. It's a justification for the no's we give the inmate. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't have to justify that to an inmate. There's no need to. But the key is, though, we do have to justify it to ourselves. Because we have to have a belief in what we're providing to the inmate. That belief will carry over in our sense of authority. So if I don't believe in the directive, if I don't believe in the why I'm giving it, if I don't believe in the no that I'm telling the inmate, that's going to come across to the inmate. And the inmate's going to sense a level of weakness, and they're going to try to do what they can to challenge this. They're going to do what they can to challenge that why. Because they think that I don't believe in the directive I'm providing. Because I may have come off hesitant in giving the order. Or my no was weak. But what confirms that weakness is how I justify why I'm giving that order. Now again, you don't have to give an inmate a justification. But I want to give you a hint, just in case you feel compelled to do so. I'm going to tell you where that justification has to come from. But the reason why I'm giving this dialogue is because I want you to know how we justify it in our own minds. What's going to give us the belief that will showcase the power of authority that we need, where inmates will say, hey, he's not the one to challenge. This guy's got a good mindset. Now, I'd like to share a story of how I thought about this. Why this is an important topic to me. I remember there was an officer who inmates would always ask him personal information. What kind of car you drive? How many children do you have? Now for me, it'd be no challenge for me to say, hey, none of your business, step off. I'm not falling for that. You don't need to know. But for him, it was a little bit more difficult. Now I want to tell you something. If an inmate came up to me and said, how many children do you have? Actually, to give you good advice and just to maintain control, before I push him off, I would probably say, well, how many children do you think I have? Because I'm curious to see what this inmate knows and how they know it. But eventually, trust and believe, I have no hesitation of telling that inmate, step off. But with that said, for this person, they had a problem of telling that inmate it's none of their business. So what they would do is, they would lie and say, I have 7 children. Because the question would be, how many children do you have? I have 7 children. I have 9 children. I have 10 children. He would just constantly tell any inmate that asked him that he had a different number of children. And he thought this was funny, and he would share it with us. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, wow, a lot of inmates ask him. Like, it's not just the one inmate, it's a lot of inmates. So I'm thinking, like, if the first inmate was to ask me, I'm going to do what I can to make sure, or try my best to make sure that that doesn't happen again with that same inmate, but also with other inmates. I'm going to make sure that I make this inmate aware that that's a question that you do not ask me, and that's a question I'm not willing to answer. So as he's telling these tall tales to all these different inmates, I went and I asked him, I said, hey, can I talk to you? He's like, what's up? I said, let me ask you a question. Why did you not stop it the first time? Like, you're telling me you're getting all these inmates asking you all these different personal questions, and even though you're giving them false information, why not put an end to it? Why not just tell the inmate it's none of your business and kind of let that word start to spread that, you know, you don't tolerate those type of questions, instead of this inconsistency about the different cars you own or the different amount of kids you have. I just don't see how you're doing anything to prevent it from happening again. And it took him a while to process, and then he wound up coming back and he said, hey, Ganji, you know what the funny thing is? As I'm laughing about what I'm telling these inmates, it's actually a lot harder for me to tell them it's none of their business. And that is tremendous insight, because we are social creatures. And it's hard for us to do something that we feel may not be socially acceptable, but this profession makes you do it, and you have to do it to survive. So sometimes you're going to have to tell somebody no. Sometimes you're going to have to tell somebody, no matter how nice they are or how nice they ask, it's none of your business. And for this person, it presented a conflict. Once this person realized this flaw in themselves, they stopped doing that. They stopped lying, and they started saying, hey, it's none of your business. And eventually, the inmate stopped asking. Once he made it known that he's not going to tolerate that, they stopped asking. So it was his insight that knew that maybe he is doing it wrong. And thank you, I'm happy that he listened to me when I said you should ask yourself that. What have you done to prevent other inmates from asking you that question? So when it comes to this, the manipulation of the why, if I give an inmate a directive and I tell the inmate, hey, you must do this, or you can't do this, or no, you're not going to do this, an inmate looks at how I give the order. If they feel there's a sense of weakness, they're going to ask me, well, why can't I do this? Or why can't you do this for me? Or why are you telling me no? So now how I respond is where they're going to choose to manipulate, if they can. They're manipulating the why. So with that said, we'll look at it this way, just in a simple drawing. This is me. This whole circle is me. This is external. I am not picking that up again. Actually I am going to pick it up because I may have to erase. There you go. External, and then we have the internal. So, when an inmate asks you why they can't do something, or why you won't do nothing for me, or why you telling me no, we're going to give them two justifications, or one of two. One's either going to be an internal one, or one's going to be an external one. So real quick, and I'll give you guys a second to think about that. Which one is the stronger justification? If you decide to justify it. But mind you, this is also how we justify it to ourselves. Which justification is going to give us belief into the directive we're providing? And which justification is not going to be a weak one to the inmates? So let's do the external first. I give you a directive, or I tell you not to do something, you're the inmate. I decide to answer the why, and the why is, well, the sergeant working today doesn't want you eating in the public area. Or the sergeant working today told me that you can't do it. Well, let's just think about that. That's an external reason. That means that I'm justifying my directive or my no based on an external source, the supervisor. So now an inmate listens to that. I haven't really done anything to stop them, because one day that sergeant's not going to be here. And that inmate's going to come back up and say, hey, Sergeant such and such isn't working today. Can I go ahead and eat in the public area? So that justified response, it's external. It's not a good response. It's not something that's going to hold weight. But now check out this internal one. Why can't I eat in the public area? Because I said so. Why? Because I said so. That's it. Because I said so. That shows I believe in the order, I believe in the directive, and it's harder for the inmate to challenge. So now, if you're in a position where the inmate tries to question your level of authority, ask yourself, are you giving the order because you've given the order? Or are you giving the order because someone else is putting pressure on you to give the order? The real answer is going to be, in order for you to be successful with your level of authority, you have to be able to realize that you need to recognize the order yourself. It's internal. comes from you. That level of self will give you a stronger belief. And then when you have that level of authority, you need that belief to come out. It needs to be showcased in how you give that directive. And again, you can't manipulate this. You can't. I'm not giving you a road to go on. It's that broken record of no. No, because I said no. Why? Because I said no. Why? Because I said no. That's it. That broken record technique works. Because inmates will break you. They'll try their best to exhaust you and break you. Juveniles will do it. They'll keep on asking why, until you're just tired. But you have to stay firm with that no. And you have to make it known that it's you that's saying no, and it's not somebody else. Because if you keep on pointing at somebody else, it's weakness. I'm going to give you one other story. And the reason why this actually makes perfect sense to me outside of the other story I gave you. There was a female officer that was given a love note. Now don't get me wrong, she did the right thing with the love note. She turned it in, she reported it, did everything she had to do. But when the inmate initially gave her the love note, and the inmate asked her, why is this love note inappropriate? Because she told him this love note's inappropriate, I'm going to report it. Her response was because policy and procedure forbids this relationship. That's an external response. That's not something that the inmate's going to think that she actually believes in. So that inmate now goes back to the other inmates and says, what? She would be with me if it wasn't for the rules. If it wasn't for policy and procedure. And that's their mindset. That's how they learn to justify their own behaviors. What she should have said was because it's inappropriate. Why? Because I said it's inappropriate. Because I said it's unprofessional. Let the belief come from her and let it manifest its way out. But again, guys, to cut this video to a close, because it's just a real quick dialogue on this topic, the why matters. Let me just... How we justify this why matters. How we justify it to ourselves, and if need be, how we justify it to the inmate population matters. We need to make sure that we justify our response, that we believe in it. That it's us saying it, because that will come across. It's not external, it's internal. The internal why, or the internal justification. That eraser. Alright guys, so this wraps up video 3. Next video we're going to be talking about the first law of influence. We're going to be talking about consistency, commitment. And that's kind of related to the story of downing a duck. I'm going to explain to you how downing a duck works. If you're not familiar with the story, I'm going to kind of breeze you through it real quick. But I'm going to talk about why the inmate was able to get leverage and why that officer chose the path they chose. As always, guys, thank you for watching my class. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in video 4.